stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now.
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm Samantha Bentley, and this is the 1164th edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Today, we're taking you on a motorcycle ride. A motorcycle ride is a common occurrence for bikers and differs somewhat from a motorcycle road trip. It's less elaborate and takes much less preparation. Unless you're trying to videotape it. Anyway, Bill's friend from Indiana, Bruce Granzow, was on vacation and had been trying to get Bill to spend a day riding. Bruce recently re-entered motorcycling and bought a brand new Harley. He was itching to put on some miles. Of course, Bill's schedule is always tight, but while looking it over, it occurred to him a motorcycle ride might make a nice program. A quick call to Bruce, suggesting a destination that would work well for television, and Bill started getting the video equipment ready. Then he realized this time of the year you have to start early because it gets dark early. Bill's not a morning person.
It's the middle of the night, folks, and I'm going to give this a try, but I don't know how successful I'm going to be. This is the part of the program where I'm supposed to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do today, but quite frankly, it's way too early for me. I'm sure it's not going to make much sense. Essentially, today's program is a little bit about, obviously it's going to be involving a little bit of a motorcycle ride, but it's basically going to be kind of like reminding myself of when I was in high school. As we speak right now, it's September 15th, 2009, and school has been back in session for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. It just recently went back in session, and I remember when I was in high school and the weather, we got some really nice weather after school opened, and the motorcycle was sitting in the parking lot, and you and a couple of other buddies and what have you, and there was no way you're going to spend the day in school. And it reminds me of that a little bit right now. I don't think I'm probably making sense. Hopefully as the program goes along, I'll explain what I'm talking about. Anyway, we've got to get on the road. It's the middle of the night or break of dawn, whatever. I got to tell you, I'm surprised how noisy it is in the morning. I thought it would be dead silent. Gee, there's school buses going by, and I'm just surprised. It's noisier in the morning than I thought it would be. Anyway, I've got to get on the road, and hopefully as we go along here, today's program is going to make more sense, because right now, I'm sure I don't.
Bill, 8 a.m. is hardly the middle of the night. Many people get up this early and even earlier every day. Gee, he acts like he's being boiled in oil. Hi, I'm Janine Lauschat. Let's join him as he departs. Perhaps the open-air motorcycle ride will wake him up a bit so he can explain today's show.
I wouldn't count on it, Janine. This is way too early for me. As a matter of fact, the reason you're not hearing engine sounds right now is because in my morning haze, I didn't insert the audio cable far enough. Of course, I always check every piece after I shoot it, and when I discovered the problem, my first instinct was to go back and reshoot. The problem is, Bruce is waiting for me in Indiana, and if I take the time to reshoot, I'll lose a half an hour at best, and probably more like an hour. I decided to just press on, and explain later. I'm just not a morning person. I don't even trust my own judgment in the morning. I know, to everyone else, it looks like the beginning of a beautiful day. I can see it now while I'm looking at the footage and editing, but at the time, I had all I could do to make sure I was selecting the right gear and going in the right direction so I could find my way to the entrance of Interstate 294. Oh, one more thing about this morning stuff. I was trying to pay attention to see why the morning was so noisy. It was leaf blowers. I don't get it. It seemed like every few houses there was someone making a racket and blowing up a cloud of dust with a leaf blower. I don't think that's so cool. Making a racket and blowing dirt all over? I don't know. Maybe it's me. I'm just no good in the morning. I'd better concentrate on getting to 294.
As you know, we don't usually bother with interstate highway footage because it's all pretty much the same. Hi, I'm May Chin, and Bill was under some time pressure because he agreed to meet his friend Bruce Granzow at a place called Jim Dandy's in Hobart, Indiana at 10 a.m. He took 294 South all the way to I-65 in Indiana. He usually avoids the interstates, but time was important because his friend was waiting. He took I-65 South in Indiana to 61st Street, where he exited and headed east on 61st. Let's join him on 61st Street as he looks for Jim Dandy's, a little more awake because he's been on the road for an hour and a half.
Well, it does look like it's turning out to be a beautiful day, although one could hardly tell at 10 o'clock in the morning. The day hasn't even started yet. I'm in Indiana, just got off of I-65 on, I guess, the 61st Avenue or 61st Street or something like that. Been down here a couple of times when we did the Hobart's Dam Car Show. I'm watching for this. It seems to me this thing ends up dead-ending into here, and I make a left. Looking for Adam Benjamin Highway, also I believe called 51. Well, either way, it seems to me I can't go any further. I got to make a left anyway. And let's see, it's 10:04, so I'm really right on time. I'm really surprised. Yep, 51. That's what it is. Okay, I know I make a left here, and it's been several years, so I don't exactly remember where this Jim Dandy's thing is, but he said you can't miss it. Boy, wouldn't it be amazing if I got there and he wasn't here yet? It'd be a first for Bill Wildt being there first. Okay, let's see. What am I looking for here? Okay, then he said there's the hospital. All right, there's a hospital on the left. And yeah, this looks like where we had that car show that time. It must be right in here somewhere. Let's see. JD's, Jim Dandy. I bet that's it. I bet it's not Jim Dandy. Yeah, there he is standing here. Okay. All right. I'm in the right place. Am I in the right place?
Right place.
Okay. And there's this new scooter all shiny like I knew it would be to put me to shame.
This must be an exciting time when guys are going on a motorcycle ride. Finding your friend and seeing he's on time and ready to go must be fun. Hi, I'm Caitlin Mativich. Let's listen as Bill and Bruce chat before they get underway.
Well, I'm here, and Bruce gave me the cheeriest words of the day. It's actually starting to write. What were those words, Bruce?
Bill, you amaze me. You're on time.
Exactly. I couldn't believe it, and that really is. Listen, it's because I've got a lot of responsibilities. For you, it's easy. You throw your leg over the bike and just show up. I've got to do all this videotaping stuff and audio stuff and all the rest of it. There's a lot of things to take care of. It's not my fault.
Well, I know. I like to be punctual. You're usually about 2 hours late.
No, he doesn't realize how punctual I am now. First, tell the folks who you are.
Bruce Granzow from Hobart, Indiana.
Absolutely. You remember Bruce? Bruce and his brother, of course, put on the famous Hobart's Dam car shows. And I'm not saying a bad word there. There actually is a dam, and it is in Hobart, Indiana. And it's called Hobart's Dam Car Show. You guys didn't do the show this year, though, right?
No, the city took it over 2 years ago and sponsored it. This year, there wasn't enough money to sponsor a thing, and they were afraid that if we had bad weather, they might lose money on it, which they couldn't afford, so they didn't do it this year.
Yeah, it's really a shame. We have lost several car shows this year because of the economy and all that. And it would appear, just from my observation on these things, it would appear that the ones that we've lost are really the big ones, meaning the one, I shouldn't say that because we've got, for example, we've got Berwyn coming up this weekend, and that's huge. But when I say big ones, I'm talking about the ones where whoever puts them on really spends some real money on it, like the town of Joliet. They spent over $100,000 on their festival weekend, and the Lincoln Park Savings Bank show. They always had the Elvis impersonators. They very nice shows, spent some money, but then it becomes difficult in tough times to put those on.
Yeah, people don't realize how much a car show costs. My brother and I were doing it. It cost us around $3,500 to put that show on.
It cost that much? What's the biggest cost?
You have things like insurance. I mean, 8 hours of insurance is $400. You got porta-johns. You have to hire police for directing traffic. Your trophies, your dash plaques.
What are the trophies typically? How big of the chunk of the cost is that?
Trophies can run you $1,800.
Oh, that's a huge chunk of it then.
Yeah, if you want to get little cheap trophies, it's not going to cost you as much. But if you want to get something of quality,
Something nice that people really come
costs
for,
you,
yeah.
it costs you some money. Yes.
Yeah, so we understand that it does cost money to put these things on and everything. And in a tough economy, things like that are going to happen. On the other hand, I'm surprised that we've really had the vast majority of shows did in fact take place. Now, what we're doing today is, and by the way, I didn't tell you this before we started taping, so I'm going to tell you now. We're not telling the audience yet where we're going. You've watched a number of my motorcycle road trips, right?
Yes, I have.
So you know that I don't do that. Why do you suppose I don't tell them that?
Because you don't have any idea where you're going either?
No, because I know exactly where I'm going. Here's the problem. If you tell people what the destination is, that's what they focus on. They forget all about the ride. And the joy of a motorcycle road trip is in the ride. And if all you're doing is focusing, when am I going to get there? Did I make the right turn? I got to get, you know what I mean? You lose the whole pleasure of kind of meandering down the roads. So I want the audience to kind of half wonder where we're going, but at the same time, not forget to enjoy the little ride along the way. You know what I mean?
Yes, often when I go riding, I have no destination in mind. Just climb on a bike, take off, and point it in a direction, see where you go.
Right, and I've explained that to the audience before, that there are some bikers that do that. In fact, I've got a friend of mine, good friend of mine, and including Doc Joe, the Toys for Tots doctors. They just get on the bikes and don't turn. In fact, the one trip I remember specifically, the two of them, including Doc Joe, got on the motorcycle and didn't turn left until they got to Colorado. Now that's not having a destination, isn't it?
Boy, I'll say.
Yeah. I'm a little different, though. I do like to have some, it doesn't have to be rigid, and it can change, and if I don't get there, that's okay, too. But I like to have some general concept of where I'm going. I don't know, maybe because I'm German, I like to have, open beginning, middle, and end, and I kind of know what's going on and all that. Anyway, so we do have a little bit of a destination here, and I think the destination is going to be pretty cool. It's something that if you've been watching for any length of time, as we get closer, you might get the idea of where we're actually going, because I've talked about this a little bit before. And of course, there's the other thing. I'm not as well planned as I should be. It's after Labor Day. It's quite possible this place isn't open.
Possibly, but I believe it will.
I think we're going to be okay. All right, we're going to get on the road now. Again, we're in, is this Hobart? We're in Hobart right now?
We're in Hobart, yes.
We're in Hobart right now. We're going to get on the road, but before we do that, this is the first time we've had you with your bike on the show. We've talked about it a little bit before, but you didn't have the bike with you. You've got, a couple of thousand miles on it now?
Yeah, it's got almost 2,100 on it now.
Okay, and we were just talking before we went on. I'm going to have them tell you about the bike, but before we went on, we were just talking about this, about what a hypocrite I am, and I don't know how to fix this, and I don't know how to change this, but I'm just going to tell you the problem I have with all this. I've been riding since I was 13 years old. I've had motorcycles my entire life. Those that have been watching know that I raced professionally for 5 years. I truly enjoy motorcycles. But I also know that motorcycles are not for everyone. Not everybody belongs on a motorcycle. It takes a certain kind of a person to ride and to enjoy this thing. And the last thing I want to do is to do a television program going on and on about the joy of motorcycling and have somebody get influenced out there and go out and hurt themselves. I'd never forgive myself. I have a conscience. So here I am doing these programs about what wonderful fun it is to go across the countryside and on a motorcycle, enjoy the sights and sounds. And there really isn't anything quite like it, is there?
No, it's a very unique experience.
It's really the best. And then tell you, but don't do it. And that's kind of what I'm doing. And I am sort of a hypocrite. And I did the same thing with you when you said you were going to buy a bike again. I told you what?
You told me not to do it, but there was a reason I kept my endorsement for motorcycles on my license for over 30 years, even though I hadn't ridden. I knew one day I probably would be getting back on a bike.
Right, so you have ridden before and all that?
Oh yeah, I rode, but it hasn't been since the early 70s.
Right, and it has apparently reinvigorated your enthusiasm for riding.
Oh, it certainly has. It took me a while to get used to riding again. And anybody that gets a bike shouldn't venture out into traffic till they're totally comfortable with the bike, because you have to be heads up on everything around you.
You're exactly right. This is not, I've often said, motorcycles are not for people that think everything is going to be the way it's supposed to be and everybody's going to do what they're supposed to do. Motorcycles are for people who are constantly conscious of their surroundings and what's going on and don't expect people to stop at stop signs and don't, you know what I mean? And you just have to think that way.
You got to think of yourself as being invisible, and everybody out there is out to get you.
You're right, and it sounds like a chore, but after a while, believe it or not, it's just second nature.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, tell me about your scooter. What'd you buy?
It's a 2008 105th Anniversary Edition Harley Wide Glide. I had seen this bike last year. I wanted to get it, and I kind of put it off, and then time passed. I figured I could not get another 105th Anniversary Edition. Thought it was gone, but then I saw one in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I called them on the phone, put some money down, went up and got it, and I've never regretted it.
Well, that's good, and you are enjoying it, and you are being careful.
Absolutely.
And I've just got to resign myself to the fact that these are grown men. Everybody out there is, these are grown men and everything. And I hope you understand my dilemma. Since I've been doing this show for 23 years now, and from the very beginning, I got the idea right away that when you're on television, your words do have influence. And so the last thing I want to do is influence somebody to do something that hurts them. I do have a conscience. On the other hand, how do you not tell the folks about the joy and pleasure of riding and not influence them into, you know what I mean? It's a problem.
It is, and if you're going to ride a bike, you have to be heads up about it and not take chances.
Okay, we're going to get on the road now again. We're not telling you what the destination is. I'll tell you what the destination is. And by the way, this is Bruce and I are totally different people. Bruce has kind of welded himself to GPS units and cell phones and all that. And my rules are when we do this thing, there are no cell phones, there are no GPS units, and I have real reasons for this. And maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the program. So already we're having a war. He thinks it's a compromise because he puts them in a saddlebag, and my compromise is we throw them in a sewer. So we're going to work on this throughout the course. You like that GPS stuff and all that?
I have my cell phone, the GPS is there, so we won't get lost. We won't find our way back.
No, see, I don't mind getting lost.
Well, I do. I don't want to wander around in the wilderness.
You would be amazed at how self-sufficient I am. Anyway, we're going to continue to chat, but I'm not going to let them take them out of the saddlebags. Trust me.
The first order of riding business was to get out of Hobart and out on the rural roads Bill selected for this adventure.
It's good to see Bruce again. It's been a while. It's a shame when they do the Hobart Dam car shows all the time. It was always nice to hook up with him again. And of course, Bruce is a guy that has called my attention. He's a car show aficionado, and he's got if you remember on the show, he's got a 454 4-speed Chevelle that he shows all the time. And there are certain shows that he just really likes and has called my attention, like the Riverside show that he really likes and called my attention to, and he travels to those all the time. And that's normally where I run into him, and when we've had the canceled shows this year, it's been less frequent, so it's too bad.
Leaving the Hobart area, they took 130 to Valparaiso, where they jumped on 49 and proceeded south to Coots, Indiana.
Then they took 8 to La Crosse, Indiana, where they turned south on 421 and headed toward Madairyville.
Just after Madairyville, they turned east on 14 and made a right at Winnemac and headed south to 16, where they turned left at Royal Center. Let's join them as they enjoy rural Indiana on 16. By the way, they're headed toward Route 31. Any idea where they're going yet?
What an absolutely beautiful day. It must be 80 degrees. The sun is warm. The corn is as high as corn can be, I guess. I don't know anything about farming. The roads here in Indiana are just absolutely beautiful. This is what a motorcycle ride is all about. If you don't ride, you probably won't get it. it's just not the same in a cage. We've been on the road for quite a while. I'm fully awake now, and these are the times it feels great to be alive. I wish you could feel it. We're going to zip forward quickly to get to the next little town. It's so cool the way it works. You travel for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, and sure enough, another charming little town pops up, and you get to see how other people live.
You really have to keep an eye out for these speed signs when they change speeds on you as you approach the small towns. I've said it before, mention it once again, to me it's always important to respect we're in somebody else's home sort of as we go through here. They know where their children are playing and what their circumstances are, and I certainly always pay attention to their speed limits. I'm hoping we spot something where we can stop and get a Coke. I'm getting thirsty.
Seeing America like this is a pure joy, and the destination really isn't important. Even if it's closed, we still had a great ride through charming countryside.
After finding Route 31, they turned south and headed for their destination. Bill wanted to take their arrival, but the place kind of popped up by surprise after some construction. Let's check out what they rode so far to see.
Well, the place kind of snuck up on us. Not really, but I always have sort of a plan when I'm shooting is the way I would like to introduce things and all that. And Bruce and I just had hour and a half on those backcountry roads?
Yeah, about that, yeah, without too many stops.
Yeah, hour and a half or so of just some of the loveliest country. I must admit, I'm sort of a closet Hoosier. From the time I used to race at South Bend Speedway, when I think it was 2 over there. Do you know the road I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
What a pretty ride that is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, 2 is a great ride.
It really is. And so I sort of became kind of a Hoosier person at that time. And once again, it reaffirmed today what a lovely ride through the country and all that. And all the time we're going along and we're seeing these little kind of mom, pa, dog and suds places and all that, but we're just riding. Then when the time comes, I says, you know what, I better stop and shoot a little piece at one of those places, so the next thing we can tape ourselves arriving at the Grissom Air Force Museum. And guess what, we were out of civilization. There were no places.
We're out of civilization. We're on the what looks like an interstate over there, no place to pull over. And there's also a little bit of construction.
Construction and all the rest of it. So I says, okay, the heck of it, we won't introduce it exactly the way I would like to. But this was the destination. This is what we had in mind. If folks will remember that watch all the time when we did the Sweetwater, Tennessee trip. We mentioned the Grissom Museum. It was at night when I went by and I saw a couple of the airplanes that looked interesting. I saw the sign, but it was like 10:30 at night. It was dark. And I thought to myself, boy, on the way back, I'd like to really investigate that and see what that is. And we came back a different way, so I never could. So it kind of has been rolling around in the back of my mind for a while. And Bruce, who was a guy, by the way, that absolutely will not put anything else ahead of work. So if he has to work, I can't talk him into riding. So he had a vacation week coming up this week, and he kept bugging me, Bill, let's ride someplace and all that. So I was trying to provoke him a little bit. Why don't you go check out that Grissom place? And you know what he said? What'd you say?
I said, it was too far to go.
Yeah, so I said, no, we're going. It's for him, it's only 100 miles. For me, it's like 160 miles.
Well, it was too far that particular day. Today, it's fine.
Okay, it was gorgeous. What a gorgeous ride, though, huh?
It couldn't have been better. It's in the 80s. It's just a nice day.
And I'll tell you, this is the right place for both of us, because when we're setting up the shot, I'm sure you can hear that overhead right now. There's one military aircraft after another taking off. What's taking off?
That's C-141.
Starlifter. Yep. And as we're setting up, he's going, Bill, get that set up. You got to get that shot. I says, Bruce, you can't get it with this kind of equipment. You can't get those shots. And then all of a sudden he realizes he's got his camera with him, and he says, what am I doing standing here talking to you? You're enjoying this.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot I have a camera in my bag. I'm telling him he's missing a shot. I forgot my camera was sitting there.
So anyway, we're going to find out I don't really know what this is. That Grissom is an astronaut, wasn't he?
Yeah, Gus Grissom.
Yeah, astronaut, and this apparently is a museum named after him, and we are in Peru, Indiana, right?
About that, yeah. I've been here before for air shows, but it's been probably 20 years or more.
Okay, and by the way, let me mention to folks, once again, if you haven't been to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Museum just outside of Dayton, that's not one of those things you wait until you're in the area. That's one of the things you make a special trip, am I right?
Oh, yeah, you could spend days at Wright-Patterson. I've been there several times, and you still don't ever see
17 acres under roof.
Oh, yeah.
It's an unbelievable thing. Every significant airplane, I don't expect anything like that here. In fact, I didn't expect anything like that ever existed, but I don't want you to miss it if you ever have a chance, just outside of Dayton, Ohio. Anyhow, I expect this to be a little bit more modest, but equally as cool, because military aircraft are always very cool. And the main thing is, and the reason I didn't want to tell you, as I explained before, the reason I wouldn't want to tell you in advance where we were going is because then you get all focused on the fact, or maybe you won't even stay around because you're not interested in planes or something like that. But the point of today isn't necessarily the destination. This is like frosting. The point of it was the ride. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great ride.
Great. Absolutely. Just a wonderful, beautiful, beautiful, perfect day. You couldn't have a better day for riding. Beautiful countryside. The whole thing was very cool. Now, we're going to take a look at the Grissom Museum and see what we got going here.
Sometimes I envy guys. They seem to have such a good time with something like this. Bill and Bruce sounded like they thoroughly enjoyed the 100-mile ride to the museum and are now eager to see what's inside. Bill was lucky enough to find someone who knew all about the museum and agreed to go on camera. Let's meet him.
We are inside the Grissom, I'm saying it right, Grissom?
Grissom Air Museum, yes, sir.
We are inside the Grissom Air Museum right now, and I have a fellow here that knows all about it and is going to tell me all about it. First of all, you are.
Richard Muchler.
And where are you from, Richard?
I'm from here in Miami, Indiana. Or I live in Miami, Indiana.
Okay, I thought this was Peru.
Yeah, it is. The base is Peru, but I live in Miami, which is just down the road.
Okay, but the actual
The
museum
base is in Peru, Indiana, yes,
And
sir.
how about the museum?
The museum?
That's part of the base?
The base and the museum are both in Peru, Indiana.
Okay, so you're using all that complicated military language you got right by me there. But so
Yeah,
this is on the base then, is that it?
Well, it used to be. The base has gone away now.
Oh, is that right?
Well, it's still a reserve base, but the outside area that the museum is on belongs to the museum now.
Okay, because I was going to say, how can we see all these airplanes taking off?
Well,
If it's-
because the runway just goes right over the top of the museum. So if you get here at the right time, you might be able to see all kinds of airplanes taking off from the base.
Well, Bruce, the man that's with me, is all excited because of the Starlifter that was going to. What an airplane that is, huh?
The C-5 is a big airplane. It really is.
It sure is. Anyway, tell us a little bit about the museum. Like I say, I'm not familiar with this one at all, so give us an idea of what you have to offer here.
About 25 years ago, a group of ladies and gentlemen from the area got together, and they decided that they wanted to maintain and keep the airplanes looking as good as they possibly could that were parked on the base, physically on the base. And then in the middle of 1985, that we decided to in order for the public to visit them, we had to get them off the base. So we moved them out here at the Grissom Air Museum Park that we're standing in now. And so we moved all the airplanes out here in the park. And over the last 10 years, we've just done nothing but grow. We try to get an airplane every year to add to the collection. And we're up to, we have a total of 33 airplanes, but they're not all on display here at the museum and the air park.
Okay, give us an idea of the range of aircraft. Are we talking about traditionally about Vietnam aircraft, World War II? What have we got?
We have a handful of World War II airplanes. We have a very rare B-58 Hustler.
Wow, that is rare, yes.
They only made 8 of them, or they made 116 of them, and there are 8 of them left today, and we have one of the 8 that are left. We have a TF-102 that was flown by George Bush, the younger George Bush. We have a case EC-135 that was used in Desert Storm and was responsible for the destruction of 27 Scud missiles, 60-plus tanks, and half of an airplane.
This particular aircraft, not one like it. This aircraft.
This particular airplane.
Wow, very impressive.
And then we have a KC-97 that was one of the first air refueling tankers that they added the jet engines on the wings to, along with a handful of other fighters like an F-14 Tomcat that flew in about 5 years ago.
Of course, the F-14 Tomcat, I'll interrupt you for a moment, was one of my all-time favorite airplanes, along with the Shooting Star, which I also see you have.
Tom Cruise and the F-14, and most everybody's seen the movie Top Gun, and so the F-14 is kind of a neat airplane for us. We have a 40-foot observation tower out in the park that you can climb up and go inside and see, or go up in the tower and look at the airplanes. And you also get the opportunity to look down the runway and watch the airplanes take off and land if there happens to be any of them here. So we now try to maintain the airplanes, or we do maintain the airplanes, and all the airplanes are on loan to us from the government. And as long as we maintain them, they'll stay here forever and ever and ever. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make sure that they're here for, I always tell my wife, we want to make sure that the grandkids get the opportunity to see these airplanes, and we got to maintain them for that to happen.
There's no question about it. If we don't take and save a piece of the history, we're going to have to learn the whole thing all over again. So
That's right.
it couldn't be a more valuable thing. Now, I also noticed that's as far as the outside. Of course, you got all these great airplanes standing outside, but inside here, you've got a lot of interesting displays too. We're standing in front of one of particular interest. What have we got behind us?
An F4 cockpit that the kids can get into, and well, the kids of all ages can climb in and sit in, and we get a lot of flying time in the F4 cockpit. We have a helicopter cockpit in the back that they can also sit in, and we have a Wright Brothers simulator that you can lay in like the Wright Brothers did back in 1903 and fly it. And it's just kind of one of them neat things that that's on loan to the museum.
You've got another kind of simulator. I'm calling it a simulator. He's leaning against it right now because it almost looks like an arcade kind of game. What is that?
That's an A10 familiarization cockpit. So the pilot would sit in the A10 cockpit and he would be familiar with where all the knobs and buttons are, because when you're flying the airplane, you can't be looking around trying to find the knobs and the buttons. And it's like I always tell the kids when I do the tours, I say, it's Mom and Dad driving down the road, and when it's time to turn the headlights on, they know exactly where to put their hand on the buttons, and so they don't have to look around to try to find the light switch. They know where that light switch is, they turn the lights on and continue driving.
And all this is available for hands-on for everybody?
All this is available for hands-on. Yep. We also have a toothpick airplane. We have a Learjet that's made of 82,500 wooden toothpicks that was made by a gentleman from Warsaw, Indiana named Terry Woodling. And it took him about 9 months to make it, and it's kind of a neat piece.
There's a lot of neat pieces. We're only, by the way, scratching the surface, as we typically tell you on Motorsports Unlimited. Anytime we take a look at any activity, all we can do is just give you a small taste. To really enjoy it, you have to come in person, and this is another one of those examples. Now, I want to thank you for spending a little time with us. Is there anything you left out that you're particularly proud of before we start looking around ourselves?
We like to make sure that moms and dads and grandma and grandpas come back to visit the museum and bring the kids, because I always tell everybody it's amazing what we've packed into this little bitty building.
It really is amazing, and it's also, they packed a lot in, but not just that, it's also beautifully displayed. This is really well worth the trip. Now, we're going to take a look at some airplanes.
Richard turned out to be a terrific guy who did indeed know all about the museum. He took Bill and Bruce on a tour of the outside, so Bill could pick a couple of the aircraft to take a closer look at. Of course, Bill couldn't resist the B-17.
All right, Richard just tried to kill me. He insisted I go up the tower to have a look at what you can see from the tower. What he didn't say is that the walk up the tower would kill you, right?
It's only 60 steps.
It's over 80 degrees, and I'm 66 years old.
Well, we all have that same problem.
Anyhow, it's some tower, and what a view of this place. What a spectacular place this is, and we are standing in front of an airplane we didn't mention when we were standing there talking inside, and I'm not sure why, because it is truly one of the grand ladies of the air. Tell us about it. What have we got behind us?
The B-17 that's sitting behind us was flown in here in 1960. It's one of 12,735 B-17s that were built, and there are about 50 of them left today, and of that 50 that are left, there's something like 11 of them that are flyable. And of course, none of our airplanes are flyable, but this is kind of the center part of our museum here with the 17.
Fair to say this, what was commonly called the Flying Fortress, is probably the airplane most responsible for winning World War II?
Just about, that's what everybody says. Yep.
Although that's not really fair, because so many great aircraft made contributions, but really the B-17, right, at least in Europe, was the,
Yeah, I agree with that. The B-25s had their day.
The B-25, Billy Mitchell, didn't seem as much like a bomber as the B-17. Now, do you know what I mean?
Right, because they used the B-25 to take off from the aircraft carrier to surprise for the Tokyo raid.
30 seconds over Tokyo,
yep.
Sure.
And nobody thought that the B-25 could take off from an aircraft carrier.
Right. Plus the fact the B-25 has 2 engines instead of 4. Somehow the B-17 seemed like a bomber. Yeah. It seemed, kind of lumberous, whereas the B-25 was sort of maybe the beginning of the fighter bombers.
Yeah, more or less. I think that's probably true. The noise that the 17 makes is unforgettable if you hear a B-17. If you ever get the chance to hear a B-17 fly around, the noise is unforgivable. It really is.
Okay, I noticed that we have a belly turret and we have a nose turret. Is there a tail gunners in this one too?
There's a tail gunner in this one, and we have a gentleman that comes in and volunteers with us on Wednesdays and Saturdays who was the ball turret tail gunner on a B-17. And he tells some great stories about when he was flying on a B-17.
That's super. And this one also has some nose art on it.
This one has some nose art on it. This is Miss Liberty Bell. It's painted up as Miss Liberty Bell. And I always tell everybody that the nose art was an incentive for the crews to bring their airplanes back, and that's why they put nose art on the airplanes.
It's a darn shame that we should have to explain it.
That's it.
It's
really
a
is.
darn shame. I don't know what has happened to us as people, but I think we all do understand. We get it, right?
Right,
we
we
get
get
it. The ladies are very important to the men, and you bet we want to take care of our ladies.
And they're doing it even on the reserve unit here that's got tankers here on this base has several airplanes with nose art on them already. It's just a neat thing.
It's normal, and it certainly isn't disrespectful.
No.
Absolutely not. Okay, anything else you want to tell me about the B-17s in general, or this one in particular?
No, we've refurbished this one with some grants from the state of Indiana, and hopefully this airplane will stay here forever and ever and ever.
Okay, once again, what a great opportunity to see some really, really important aircraft. And before we leave here, I want to make sure we take a look at that B-25. Also, significant airplane. Anybody that's ever read or seen 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, you know the B-25.
Gee, I wish I'd been there. It looks like a very cool place. Let's check out that B-25.
Finally, folks, and believe me, I could spend several days here, but I'm not going to. This guy has been nice enough to accommodate us here. We just popped in totally by surprise. They had no idea that we were coming. I can't tell you how much I appreciate their help. We are standing in front of a B-25 Billy Mitchell bomber, and we've got kind of a special story about the B-25 before we get started. Bruce, if you would, please come on in over here. Please step right in over here. This is a little added story that I wasn't even aware of. Bruce, you have some connection with the B-25 Billy Mitchell bomber.
Yes, through the family, yes.
Tell us.
Jimmy Doolittle, he was lieutenant colonel at the time. He led the Doolittle Raiders, and he is a cousin of my grandfather.
So you're related.
Yes.
Now, what do you think?
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It really is.
Did you ever know him or anything?
No, I never met the gentleman, no.
Okay, but you certainly are proud of the relationship.
Everybody is, sure.
Okay, buddy, thank you. And by the way, we're talking about 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. Right. You said the Doolittle Radio, not everybody would understand the reference. Okay, B-20, how's that, by the way, for a special little edit?
That was really cool.
Pretty
We
cool.
appreciate that. Let me throw a curve at you. Every year in August we have what we call a Warbirds Cruise In out here, and for all you buffs with cars, come on down. It's probably the first weekend in August. It'll probably be the 7th of August, and we do that on a Saturday, and we park all the cars around the airplanes. Last year we had over 100 cars, and we'd like to get over 300 cars out here for our car show. So,
Bruce, what do you think? Would that be a special car show to hold it right on the grass out here among the airplanes? That's what he's saying, and they do this annually. And once again, the day
should be about the 7th of August. But call the museum, and we'll have more information on it when the time rolls out.
The actual name of the museum is
Grissom Air Museum, and
in Peru,
Indiana. Yes.
Okay, so that they can get a hold of you guys, because that would be a special car show. I know everybody would like that. Anyway, we've gotten far afield here. We're standing in front of the great B-25 Billy Mitchell bomber, the one that made the first strike on Japan in World War II. Tell us about it. Speed, power, what have you.
This B-25 is been special, and it was in the movie Catch-22. So we actually have a real movie star here at the Grissom Air Museum, and that this airplane was flown in the B-25 in the movie Catch-22. And then after the movie, they sent them out to different museums. In fact, the Air Force Museum has one of them that was in the movie, and we have one that was in the movie. And it's amazing the number of people will come in here and visit the museum and say, I went out and checked that airplane out in California and figured out which airplane they were going to bring here to the museum.
Well, that's cool. Now, do you know anything about the specifics of it, the speed and power?
My B-25, we have all kinds of neat signs in front of each of the airplanes that list all the power and tell the speed and everything of the airplanes. In fact, we just got the new signs put out, and it tells what era they flew in and how many were built. So almost all your questions can be answered just by coming out and wandering around and reading the signs in front of the airplanes.
Now, you were in the Air Force for 26 years.
I was in the Air Force for 26 years. I was in aircraft maintenance.
I was going to say, I bet you weren't a pilot, because the pilots know that stuff. They know the speed. They know the speed and the power.
I wasn't a pilot. I was a maintenance guy. I took care of the landing gears and flight controls on B-52s and KC-135s for 26 years.
Okay, as I said earlier, the B-25 always kind of surprised me, because it is considered a bomber, and yet it's only a two-engine bomber. But its performance exceeds that, including the payload carrying capability of the B-17.
Yep, it sure does.
Yeah, so it was a really spectacular airplane. But like I say, I think this was the time, although I've never heard it referred to that way, is when we were starting to move into the fighter-bomber era, where you can almost do, rather than just going to high altitudes and dropping eggs, they could actually attack with them at fairly low altitude and drop bombs.
They were also used in the civilian world as fire bombers, and they used them to fight forest fires many years ago.
They had that kind of capacity, huh?
Yeah, they would fill the tanks full of water, and they could drop the water onto the forest fires and put the forest fires out.
Now let's see. This one has got I see a nose gunner, but what about a tail gunner?
It's got the tail guns in the back of it, and it's got the position for it. Some of the stuff had been taken out of this airplane when we got it, but for all intents and purposes, the airframe and everything is there just like a real B-25.
Now, didn't the B-25 had waist gunners too?
No, I don't think it may. Some of them, it depends on what version.
On the configuration,
Yeah,
right?
it depends on what version they were. The same way with the B-17s. The 17s had different versions of the airplanes, and they did the same thing with the B-25.
I would love to talk to some of the guys that were in the service. I can't think of a scarier place to be than a tail gunner. I mean, you're like a sitting duck. Everybody attacks you from the back, and you're there fighting for your life. Your shots better be right on the mark, or you're going to die. And then I started thinking about it. I don't think I'd like that upside-down ball gunner position either. You know what I mean?
Well, according to our resident ball tail gunner on the B-17, it wasn't all that bad flying in the ball.
Is that right, really?
He didn't seem to mind it. In fact, him and the tail gunner, they would flip-flop. One mission he'd do the ball, and the next mission he'd do the tail. They didn't want to do the same thing over and over and over again, so they would flip-flop back and forth.
I'll give you a little test.
Go ahead.
Is there any way any of us can ever repay those guys in World War II?
Only by thanking them.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing.
I don't know what else, you know what I mean? You know, they are well worthy of the expression, the greatest generation. I really think. I think they set a standard. I think they set the bar really high for the rest of us.
And I always tell everybody when they come out here is think about all these airplanes that are out here as the freedom that you have today.
Yeah, let's go even further. Obviously, this is Motorsports Unlimited, and I'm a technical person, and we ooh and ah over the technology and all that sort of thing of whatever it is. But make no mistake about it. In the final analysis, it's always down to the people. Think of the people that flew these things, that were in the gunner positions, and talk about courage. I mean, I can't even imagine dark of night being attacked by fighters over foreign lands. I mean,
and you have a whole bunch of people in the airplane, and when you lost one airplane, you lost a large number of people.
Like I say, I just hope we never forget in places like this. That's why this is here.
That's what we want. We want to make sure that people will be able to see this forever and ever and ever.
Okay, once again, that car show when you do it, roughly
It should be about the first week in August, around the 7th of August of next year, and we'd like to get 300 cars around all these airplanes.
Okay, I think that can be a done deal. Folks, what a special car show. That's going to be next August, so you might want to mark your calendars. Anyway, we're going to get out of their hair. This man's got other things. I thank him so much for his time, and it's time for Bruce and I to get back on the road.
Richard was a very cool guy who went out of his way to be helpful. Bill and Bruce loaded up and started the return trip.
Decided to stop in Peru, Indiana. They were thirsty and figured they would find a traditional roadside place to stop.
Well, this is definitely not what I was looking for, but we're going to take it. What I was looking for was something locally oriented. Definitely not McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's, and they're omnipresent. You can't escape it.
After getting something to drink, Bill and Bruce took a moment to reflect.
Boy, what a day. We had to stop here for a minute afterwards. First of all, I was really thirsty, spending all that time out in the field at the Grissom, I would call it an airfield, but it's actually a museum. Dehydrates you after a while, and what I was looking for was like some of the places that are typical in Indiana is what I would call the mom and pa Dog and Suds place. Not Dog and Suds brand, but you know what I mean. It looks like a canopy area going out where people pull in with their cars. I just thought it would kind of fit in with the atmosphere of the day and what we've been doing and all that. So that's what I was looking for, and I got some directions from the guys at the museum, and we pulled to McDonald's. I don't think they knew exactly what I was looking for. Anyway, what do you think?
I thought it was a very enjoyable day.
Yeah, a great place though, huh?
Well, certainly, yeah. It's no Wright-Patterson museum, but it's a nice little museum. It's worth a stop off.
It's very definitely worth a stop off. Yeah, you're right. It's modest compared, of course, to the Wright-Patterson thing, which is just, again, folks, if you haven't seen the Wright-Patterson, all I can tell you is it's the palace of aircraft museums. There's no doubt about it. But on the other hand, what a cool way to spend a day. The nice thing about this is it's so rural that there's no problem being up close and personal with all the airplanes and the stuff and all that. And talk about accommodating people. These folks, they love their museum and go out of their way to make you feel welcome. And I was very impressed.
I was too. We got here late because they're an hour ahead of us, and they had no problem at all. They kept the doors open an extra, 45 minutes or so
Yeah,
for us?
probably an hour or more, yeah.
After closing. And they just did not rush us at all.
No, it was great. It's well worth it. And by the way, that is a cool idea. They do that car. Did you know about that?
I never heard of that before.
Because you're kind of a car show aficionado, I would think that's something you would know about. That then, it's like the first week in August, a car show with the cars all arranged around the aircraft. That's cool.
Yeah, evidently they don't advertise in any of the magazines I get, but I'm gonna keep it in mind for next year.
Yeah, you bet. It's something I'll try to pay attention to a little bit because I think our audience would be interested. Because this isn't really that far. Now it takes us a little longer because the way we're making a motorcycle ride out of it. Going through all the backcountry roads and all that, and what a pleasure and a joy that is. But if somebody just wanted to, jump on Route 30 and take it to 31 and 31 down, I would guess from Chicago 2.5 hours.
Yeah, my GPS, which is usually pretty accurate, says from Hobart down to there was an hour and a half. That's of course nonstop.
So it'd be 2.5 from Chicago easy.
Yeah, I think it was 104, 108 miles, something like that. So you take add on to Chicago, and it's not really that far.
Not really that far, and I think that would be a kind of a special car show. You're a guy that you like the special car. You're the one that called Riverside to my attention, as well as others. There are certain car shows that you find very appealing because of the settings and all that.
Yeah, I've never been to one that was set up with airplanes as a backdrop, and I think that's a great idea.
I do too. I really do. Anyhow, we're going to start getting back now. We're just we stopped here. Like I say, I was thirsty. I want to get something to drink, and we want to kind of plan the return route. Don't know if we're going to use 31. Obviously, the easiest way to go would be to take 31 straight north to 30, then 30 right back to Chicago. But that kind of spoils the fun because that's like getting on the interstate and going. I don't know how much more daylight we got left. I'd like to kind of stay in the country roads unless it's getting dark. Then we'll get on the. I was actually explaining that earlier when I was talking to the thing. You saw the deer warning signs, and that is a concern you have to pay attention to, especially when the sun starts going down. And that's the advantage the interstates have, is they have fences along the side to keep the wildlife off the thing. So that's that comes into play.
Yeah, I think we have about 2 hours of daylight left before it starts to darken up.
So maybe for an hour or so we'll spend a little time in the country roads going home, and then do what we got to do. What do you think?
That sounds like a winner.
Okay, again, Grissom Aviation Museum, very, very cool. What a fun afternoon. And I should follow up on what I started earlier. It's a funny thing about it. When I started early this morning, folks, I honestly don't remember what I told you. I am not a morning person, and I've got all I can do to think straight, and I don't remember what I told you. But I do remember saying something about this reminded me of when I was in high school. And right now we're September 15th, so the schools have all been back in for a week or two or something like that. And I remember well when I was in high school, we're back in school only a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden there's beautiful weather, and you got your motorcycle in the parking lot and all that. And how likely is it you're going to be in school that day? And I had sort of that same feeling today. We ought to be working, we ought to be doing this, but it's a beautiful day, and we got motorcycles, and we're going off for a ride. You understand the connection I'm talking about?
I sure do. If I wasn't on vacation, I'd have been at work today.
Yeah, unless I could have talked you into it.
Unless you could have talked me into it.
Exactly. So it kind of had that feeling. I don't know if I put that across that well. It kind of had that feeling, except we're in our 60s now. So that's I guess guys never really change. But what a beautiful day for a motorcycle rider, and it still is. I'll tell you what. Sometimes at night when the sun goes down, it's almost nicer than during the day.
It's still real warm out. It's good riding weather.
Good ride, excellent riding weather. I think that's what we're going to do now.
They decided to pretty much reverse their course going home. 31 to 16, 16 to 35, 35 to 14, 14 to 421, and so forth. In a couple of hours, they were approaching the Hobart, Indiana area again, and there was a section Bill noticed on the way down he wanted to tape. There was almost enough daylight left.
Now this was a particularly nice section of road this morning after Bruce and I hooked up. on our way to the Grissom Museum. And I told him on the way back, I want to make sure that I tape a little bit of that. I thought it was so picturesque. Unfortunately, as is obvious, we've really lost the light. The sun is going down rapidly, and I don't know if I can, if it's going to look as pretty as it did this morning, but hopefully you get the idea. It's roads like these are really the reason we ride. Picturesque, winding, three-dimensional, up, down. It's a real pleasant thing to do on a motorcycle because, as I've explained before, the real difference with a motorcycle is that as opposed to a car, is that a motorcycle works with nature. When you almost don't really lean the motorcycle over. You just sort of look in the direction you're going. You see the curve, and your body English sort of moves in that direction, and the machine follows your body English, and whether you're going right or left or up or down, and the wheels are acting as gyros. It's really a pleasant and unique experience. Always right with the world when you're riding, and you've got beautiful winding roads and three-dimensional terrain. And I hope you're seeing a little bit of it because it's, like I say, it got dark on us here. Certainly was pretty though in the daylight. This part of the ride reminds me of the Cedar Lake area in Indiana, which I also find very picturesque. And trust me, it's a lot prettier in the daylight. It's a shame with such bright sunshine earlier today. Should have taped it then, but it wasn't in the storyline, so it wasn't really necessary. But I kept thinking about it. And I said, yeah, on the way back, I gotta see if we can at least give you a little taste of it.
They continued into Hobart, Indiana. It was totally dark and time to wrap things up where they started in the morning at Jim Dandy's.
All right, we're back at Jim Dandy's now, and I was thinking about it on the way back, Bruce. How would you characterize the day? Did we have a day of riding, or did we have a visit to the Grissom Aircraft Museum?
A lot of riding and some visiting. And it was just a good day.
Good day of riding. And as a matter of fact, you were saying this is the longest ride you've had since you got in the bike.
Yeah, what did we put on? About 230 some miles from here. That's just me.
Yeah, that's just you. I'm at over 300 now, and I still got another 65 miles to go.
Yeah, you've got
So
it right.
I'm going to be close to 400 miles by the time I'm done.
That's a lot for a day, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I like to hold it to about 300 miles or so, but today was such a beautiful day. It doesn't, it doesn't really hurt.
No, it was about the best day we've had here in a couple of weeks, and we've had good weather.
Yeah,
but, this was the best.
This was really the best. We picked the right one. Okay, anything you want to add to it, or are we done?
Well, no, I just was really impressed by the people at that museum. They went out of their way to accommodate us, and I just never felt more at home than we did there. They were super.
You're exactly right, and like everything else, and I keep saying it over and over again, it all comes down to the people. I don't care if it's a car show, I don't care what it is that you go to and attend, it always comes down to the people. And you're right, those people really liked their museum, and they were proud to show it off and all that. And I think that kind of shows, and I think, as a matter of fact, if you watch some of the other people they were interacting with, I think that's just a normal thing there. That's how they are.
Yeah, they were really impressed me.
Very worthwhile trip. And by the way, here's an idea. If you're looking for a ride, it's not really that far from Chicago. Looking for a little motorcycle ride. What a beautiful. By the way, did I pick good roads or what?
Oh, perfect.
Okay, now tell the folks you didn't pick them, even though you're from Indiana.
No.
You didn't know those roads at all.
No, I didn't pick them at all. You picked the roads. It was all rural roads for the most part, and
In excellent condition, by the way.
Yeah, that was great for riding.
Yeah, excellent condition. Not full of holes or anything. They're all beautiful. Anyhow, we're done. I hope you enjoyed spending the day with us. We certainly obviously enjoyed our day. And you know what? I think it's time now to go and get a little something to eat.
Well, there you have it, a motorcycle ride with Motorsports Unlimited. We hope you enjoyed it. Bill and Bruce sure did. Unfortunately, as always, we're out of time too soon, with only enough left to acknowledge the fine work of our award-winning production team, including Tom McGrady, Art Lauschat, our webmaster, Frank Barbalace, and Sue Casanda. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Pauley and Jerry Herbert. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Janine Lauschat, May Chin, Caitlin Mativich, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm Samantha Bentley, wishing Bill would take us girls on those trips. It sure looked like fun. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in the County Farm Plaza at County Farm Road and Army Trail Road in Carroll Stream, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Grant Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue at 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you
Next week on Motorsports Unlimited, it's the big one, the annual Route 66 Car Show in Berwyn, Illinois, typically drawing more than 500 cars. It's held on a piece of historic Route 66 that travels right through the center of Berwyn. Muscle cars, trucks, go-karts, antiques, street rods, classics, and much, much more. Better than that, the weather was perfect. Join us next week on Motorsports Unlimited and check it out.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wildt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So be seeing ya. Bye-bye, and keep on rocking.